Hello, my name is Brent Massey, and I'm continuing a series of videos about Perry Stone's visions of five tornadoes. But I've included in my book, The Writing on the Wall, America's Future. In the first video, he has five tornadoes that are symbols of future stock market crashes, one of which we've already seen, the COVID crash. And it also foresaw the Twin Towers attack. So part of that has been fulfilled. That was back in 1996. He had that vision, and then 2001 part of it was fulfilled, and we saw the Twin Towers attack in that vision. And then after that, he saw the five tornadoes. He also had another vision after that, which I did a second video on, which is after the five tornadoes have passed, and what it looks like in America after that, and what's happening to the church, and that sort of thing. Then he has two other visions that he hasn't interpreted as being, stock market crashes, but I believe that they are, and that's what I'm going to share with you today. So, look at the five tornadoes already, and now let's look at the second, what I believe is the second tornado. Perry Stone had a vision many years ago mentioned in 2012 and included in his 2022 book. He says, "The vision began with my wife, our children, and me inside a house. This is not the home Pam and I live in now, nor a home that we have owned in the past. It was a nice, one-level home, such as you could find in any middle-class neighborhood. Suddenly, I hear my son Jonathan yell out, 'Dad, come and see this.' I ran to the side door of this house and looked out at a large and flat open field. To my left, I could see in the distance a large nuclear cooling tower, such as a type seen at any nuclear power plant. I eventually saw two towers a short distance apart. In the far distance, there were three other towers for a total of five. The closest tower on the left began to spin, taking on the form of a massive tornado. The reaction from the first tower set in motion a spinning reaction at the second tower, nuclear tower, positioned not far from the first. One tower was located along a coastal area near water, and the other was nearby but on land. Near the tower, I saw two very tall trees, both of which appeared dead and as though they were bleached white. Neither trees had leaves or fruit on them. I turned to the field and saw a strange sight to the right. Stampeding at full speed were hundreds of bulls, all with long horns, running from the far end of the field toward the house. I noticed they all had hides that were white with large black spots. I saw Pam running in the field toward me. I yelled to her, 'Quick, get the kids and get into the basement.' These bulls were in panic mode, all running in the same direction. It was frightening, violent stampede. It was a frightening, violent stampede. I knew they were reacting to the disaster involving the two nuclear towers. I then awoke and immediately went to my home office to write down every detail." Okay, so here's my interpretation of it. The reactor is a reaction to a singular issue. Singular issue is symbolized by nuclear. So the reaction to a singular issue, such as a COVID outbreak, which caused the first massive tornado, the stock market crash. Represented by those five tornadoes that he saw tearing through the cornfield in his first vision in 1996. The two towers that he sees with the nuclear towers recalls his Twin Towers five tornadoes dream vision. The first reactor was on the left, which symbolizes something that's already passed, and on the coast, an issue originating from overseas or abroad, which was what COVID happened with COVID. And he has some tsunami dreams too that symbolize that too, that coming from abroad. The second reactor was on land and set spinning by the first. It's an issue originating on land at home, and it's a continuation of the instability of the first stock market crash. So the two very tall trees are two presidents, which are very old. They appear dead. The trees appear dead. Whitewashing their sins, putting on an outward show, which is a symbol bleached white, and completely ineffective, with no leaves or fruit, from the beginning of their tenure to the end of their tenure. Two is also a symbol of a division in our country. There are two dead trees. Two is a symbol of division in our country. And scripture related to that. All the trees of the forest will know that I, the Lord, bring down the tall tree and make the low tree grow tall. I drive the green tree and make the dry tree flourish. Ezekiel 17:24. So this is kind of talking about the spiritual condition of these two presidents, too. An open field is a place of vulnerability and open to attack. Perry is on the first floor of an average American home. He's coming out the side door before the two crashes, but runs into the basement afterwards at the end. Perry was intrigued by the appearance of bulls. According to Perry, the cows with white hair and large black spots are Holsteins. The Holstein originated in Europe over 2,000 years ago. This breed has the highest milk production in the world and can be found on every continent. The cow's one weakness is that they have little resistance to heat diseases when they are in a difficult agroecological area. So the amazing thing of this was a few weeks ago, someone had sent me a video on the Book of Enoch and an interpretation of that, and I don't agree with their interpretation, so I started interpreting myself, and I found the Book of Enoch, the dream in it, the bulls are church denominations. And so Perry was talking about that Holsteins originated in Europe over 2,000 years ago, and that's kind of what the Book of Enoch dream is about too, is that they over 2,000 years, about when the church originated, 2,000 years ago, 224 years ago, whatever, 2024, with Jesus' death and resurrection, that's where the Book of Enoch takes off from. And it basically, the bulls in that Book of Enoch are church denominations, and it starts with one and it continues on. And in the world, they say there's about 45,000 denominations, and that's kind of what's depicted in the Book of Enoch. Is just a continual expansion. And in Perry's saying that the Holsteins can be found on every continent, and that's true. The church today, and the harlot church, which in the Book of Enoch there's a cow in there. And he's mentioning cows. Is the cash cows that some people see the church as. And these churches would fall away in hard times, and that's what Perry's talking about. Difficult ecological area. They would also fall away in persecution. They have little resistance to heat diseases. That's a symbol of that. Which is all my interpretation of what he said in relation to his vision. The field is the USA, and there are more than 200 Christian denominations in the U.S. So that's why he said in the vision there was hundreds of bulls. They were denominations with large, and so bulls have black spots on the white skin, large black spots. And these are denominations with large blemishes: sin, spiritual defilement, corruption, falsehood, and error. So that's what the bulls represent. Now that he was going into an average American home, and a home is a symbol of God's house. In many cases, it's a symbol of God's house. In other cases, not. In this case, it's a symbol of God's house, and so he's inside the average American church, which is spiritually immature with works of the flesh because it's just one level. He's coming out the side door before the crash, but after the bulls they stampede south, which south is basically a symbol of things going south. And so these denominations, things are going south for them. And we saw with the last the COVID stock market crash, I know one church where their tithing dropped into half. So financially, but obviously we know from all the reports that also, people didn't come back to church after COVID. And so the numbers are still down. So I think they're going further south than what it is today. They're stampeding that direction, so it's something pretty extreme. Bulls stampede south. He runs with his family to take refuge in the church, in the basement. So the basement is a symbol of taking refuge. Okay, he also had another vision, and this is what I believe is the third tornado. He doesn't interpret it as that, but I believe it's the third tornado. Let me go ahead and read that one to you. Perry Stone wrote, long before Hillary Clinton and Trump collided on the campaign trail, I had a detailed vision of her. The vision began with me standing in a large downtown city. I stepped into a van with what appeared to be a church youth group. Once I sat in the van, I heard a noise from outside that sounded like a strong wind gusting in the city. My first thought was a violent storm was brewing and a tornado or a series of tornadoes would be involved, which is his first vision. The scene immediately changed. I was standing beside a straight road that went as far as the eye could see. There was no traffic on the road, no trees or vegetation in the area, just a very large open field. There was grass covering the field, but no grains, corn or wheat of any kind. Standing in the middle of this field was Hillary Clinton, wearing a bright yellow business jacket and matching pants. Up to that point, I had never seen Hillary on television or any photograph in an outfit that color. She was making a speech and smiling while making gestures with her hands. In the far distance, directly behind her at the end of the field, were 3 extremely tall tornadoes that reached from the ground to the sky. From the ground upward, all 3 tornadoes had very thin stems that became larger and wider the higher they reached upward. They were all the same size and height, spaced side by side in an orderly fashion. They were not yet moving toward her, but each one was beginning to spin separately, starting with the one on the left. She was oblivious to the fact that she would eventually be struck from behind by all 3 tornadoes, about the same time. As I looked on, I knew that the tornadoes did not represent a coming natural storm, such as a hurricane or a tornado in Kansas. The third scene he continues, the third scene shifted from Hillary to the outskirts of a major city. In the vision, I was not informed of the city's location. I was standing in a field similar to the one in which I had previously seen Hillary. I looked up into the sky where there were 2 strange star formations that took on the outlines of 2 different animals, an alligator and a bear. My first thought was that a bear and an alligator could be dangerous animals if they felt threatened. The alligator slowly moves towards its prey, then suddenly opens its mouth and grabs its victim. The bear is a bit different. When a mother bear feels that her cubs or their security are being threatened, she will attack suddenly and violently and will rip to shreds anyone that she deems a threat. Okay, that's the vision, and here's my interpretation of this vision, which is not Perry's interpretation. All 3 tornadoes. Okay. Sorry. So all 3 in this vision, he said all 3 tornadoes had very thin stems that became larger and wider the higher they reached upward. They were all the same size and height, spaced side by side in an orderly fashion. This is exactly how he describes his 5 tornado dream, the first vision, and how the tornadoes looked. They were same height, side by side, orderly fashion. They were very thin at the bottom, very wide at the top, because they're symbolizing stock market crashes. So this is about the timing of the dream before the 3rd stock market crash, because it was about to hit Hillary. It's behind her. It's not going to hit her. So she's making a speech and smiling while making gestures with her hands. So this is like, you know, a symbol of her like being on a campaign trail. But she's a symbol of Kamala Harris, who wore a white pantsuit and a scarf at the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris election acceptance and victory speech on November 7th, 2020. And this white pantsuit that she was wearing was widely commented on. And it actually looks yellow in pictures, but I think the yellow symbolizes that she's Asian, she's part Indian, South Asian. Which is, because clothes can symbolize what you represent. There was no traffic on the road, no trees or vegetation in the area, just a very large field, open field. There was grass covering the field, but no grains, corn or wheat of any kind. The field of opportunity is wide open. She's right in the middle. This is the very beginning, because the 2 old trees are gone, which 2 old trees could symbolize, Biden and Trump. These 2 old guys that are completely unaffected. And so now that they're out of the way, the field of opportunity is wide open. She's right in the middle. This would be at the very beginning of her presidency, or even when she's campaigning, because she's out there making a speech and smiling, making gestures with her hands, probably shaking hands, whatever. So this is the very beginning of her presidency, or before she's elected, and nothing's been sown in the field yet. She hasn't done anything yet. She eventually will be struck from behind by all 3 tornadoes about the same time. So I think the same time means during her time as president, not at the exact same moment, but during her time as president, during the time. And this may also indicate her being in office for 2 terms or possibly a bit longer to be able to fit all these in. The last scene is a field similar to the one she was on, which I think symbolizes a political field. So it's not the same field, but it's similar. So I think this is a political field because she's on the field. You know, Hillary's obviously a symbol of politician. It's a symbol of a woman, you know, trying to be elected as president, and I think that's what Kamala is in the future. Possibly, or someone else, but that's you know the pantsuit that they commented widely on could be why Perry was struck by this, what she was wearing, and the yellow being her ethnicity. The Milky Way is a symbol of a satanic kingdom. The Leviathan, a sea monster, is a symbol of the beast out of the sea, Antichrist. So that's basically the alligator that he's seeing up in the sky, the constellation. A constellation is a group or cluster of related things. In this case, a ruthless, cruel, domineering leader of a nation with an antichrist spirit. That's the alligator. And it's in constellations that they're together, so it has to be a ruler of some leader, and the country is Russia, which is the bear. One prophet suggested Putin's right-hand man, Nikolai Patrushev, who is more barbaric than his master, could be this possible leader in the future. This leader will rise before the last 3 stock market crash, because in the vision, the tornadoes were not yet moving toward her, toward Kamala or Hillary. So that's the interpretations of the second and third tornadoes to follow the first 2 visions that he had way back in '96. The other one, the second one was I think a few months, 6 months or something after that. And this one, these 2 seem to be been more recent, maybe in the last 10, 15 years. I'm not sure. It doesn't exactly indicate. So, Lord willing, these interpretations will prove out, and I will continue to speak on this topic on my book in future videos. And thank you for listening.